faith to continue, right, so that it can take us to the next steps before he comes to come get us.
Yeah. Now, Linda already gave her testimony about her battle against cancer. I wanted to ask you the same question about Linda's testimony and your involvement, how you were able to, how you helped Linda, how you were able to hold up, resist, maintain everything in the face of all adversity. Because Linda's testimony is a very interesting testimony. And it's very important that people know about this, especially in times like these. And in a more personal sense, as I already told Linda, I had a personal health problem in which I've had to struggle. I was in intensive care in 2002, in October, and then in November. And it was because of an enzyme deficiency, one of those enzyme deficiencies that close any part of the intestine from the mouth to the colon, which could have resulted in my not even talking to you right now. I would have been in fact, I didn't even accept God at that time, so I thank God that I was able to survive, because I don't even know what would have happened. And that's one. Second, also the fact that my father, he's now 94, I think 95. He has inoperable cancer of the prostate, inoperable thoracic and abdominal aortic aneurysm, and he is blind. The doctors, he has been to all the doctors for second opinions and everything. They said at this stage of life, 94, 95, the best that he could do is just simply live out his years. And during the daytime, when I'm not doing journalism, I work as a physician, not seeing patients. I'm a medical doctor because I have the degree, but I have the degree of medical administration that I work with the insurance companies, Medicare, TRICARE, Obamacare, any other care. And I do visit my dad because I want to spend the last times with him we've talked, and I've helped him at times. That's the second one. The third one, as I already told Linda, and I'm also going to tell you as well, today I received news from a friend, a classmate. I graduated from high school in Venezuela, the American school, one of the American high schools in Venezuela. Like they had them in Caracas and Valencia. We graduated in the good times. We're just like any other American high school. Like you once went to, Tim, where you were from in Florida. You had the cheerleaders, you had the jocks, you had the nerds, you had everything. Well, she was one of our great friends, my great friends. We were in the class of ourselves, all of us. We were like the troublemakers. But to make it long story short, she has suffered from respiratory infection. She's originally from Oklahoma, lives in Colorado, and she's in Colorado because of her health. And now she was in the hospital for respiratory infections, and she found out that she turned positive for COVID-19, even though she obeyed all the regulations, the quarantine, the social distancing.
Yeah.
She went the 9 rounds, and now she's already interned in the hospital. They have not let her out. So I was hoping that you could explain your part of Linda's testimony of the struggle against cancer, which could serve as an inspiration for those who are undergoing the same thing or even worse, especially in these troubling times.
So, Roberto, the one thing that I want to say, and I'll talk about the testimony, but I want everyone listening, is my appeal is never forget about the caregiver. So we know the patient is going through the struggle. We know what their struggle is. We know that they have a sickness. We know that they're facing death. But the caregiver, what I discovered, when Linda was dying, Tim was dying too. And that was the pressure that I felt. With your dad, I love my dad. I lost my dad, and he passed away about 3 years ago. And a part of you goes with them. So that caregiver, I can give you case after case. We're so blessed to talk to so many people, and I see it over and over and over again, is that the caregiver will end up suffering more and fall to some other kind of illness because they're unable to take care of themselves while they're trying to care for the one that they love. So they're so hanging on to that person. So what the Lord showed me as Linda's caregiver saved my life. So I know that sounds kind of maybe not thought about much. I don't hear a lot about it, but it really literally saved my life, because when Linda explained, I heard the part of the story where the doctor comes out and he says, we're going to do everything that we can to save her. At that moment, Roberto, I did not hear. My sister was there. The doctor was there. There was a lot of noise in the hallways. My ears turned off, and I really couldn't hear. He was talking to me and telling me about the plan and what they're going to do and all these things, and I could hear none of that because I died at that moment, right? Emotionally, mentally, in my heart. My last day on earth was at that moment. That's the way I feel. That's the best way I can describe it to you. And I know with what you just said, you have familiar feelings regarding that, and all you want to do is help that person, and you can't, right? And there was nothing more important to me, and still is nothing more important to me on this earth than Linda. Linda is my soulmate. I love her. She's my spouse. She's my best friend. We work together. There's nothing more important to me on this earth than my wife, Linda, period.
Yeah, the same thing with my father, and also the same thing with my wife, Marilia. She's downstairs talking with her family in Puerto Rico. But I have the same thing. Marilia, without her, every time she goes to treatment in Puerto Rico, and I'm here in Miami, I pull my hair, I go crazy. When this whole COVID thing started, and my wife was Marilia was under treatment in Puerto Rico, I was like pulling my hair and everything. I was taking care of my dad, but I was also pulling my hair. And of course, we do have to respect and give thanks to the healthcare workers. Not because I'm a doctor. That's the least. It's because because the healthcare workers, physicians, nurses, pharmacists, social workers, all that is involved in healthcare, they have sacrificed themselves so that we are a lot better. And I also know that they've done a really great job in making sure that Linda managed to remain cancer-free. But I wanted to add something else. It's not just the healthcare workers and the nurses and the social workers, all that is in healthcare, that we have to give thanks. We also have to give thanks to God. I once saw a painting a long time ago. I don't know who did the painting, but this painting was universal. I saw it in Ohio. I'm talking about 40 years ago. I saw this same painting in Naples, Florida, 40 years ago too. In Naples, just a stone's throw from Miami. I saw this same painting in Venezuela and in Europe. In this painting, there was a surgeon operating on a patient, and this physician was trying all he could do to save the patient. And in the painting, Jesus was behind him, and Jesus said, "Let me take care of this." And that was the painting. I had something similar to that when I was studying medicine in the Dominican Republic with Marilia. Marilia and I met, we were boyfriend and girlfriend when we studied medical school, and we did our medicine there, we studied, and then she went to Puerto Rico and I was here. But there was one time in which I had to do an operation under the supervision of a physician who was not there. He said, "I'm going to go take supper. Go ahead and do everything. I'll take the full responsibility." And this was in my surgical rounds. I tried everything in my power. This was a 17-year-old girl. If she was alive, she would probably be 50. At that time, she was 14, 15. I tried everything that I could to save her. But I couldn't. And like most healthcare workers, especially physicians and physician students, medical students, when she died, I felt the very big pain. I felt very painful. I thought, I'm not good enough. I haven't done anything. I don't know what, I tried everything. I failed. I wanted to save her life. Marilia was behind me saying, you did all you can. Just simply God took care of the rest. And then when I gave the report to my superior, of course my superior was not very pleased that I had that the patient died. But I explained to him this. I tried everything. Yeah, because my supervisor in this was an atheist. In the Dominican Republic, there were many physicians at that time who were atheists, even communists, who wanted perfection. I said, I can't give you the perfection. This is what happened. But Marilia said, you did everything you can. And we have to not only honor our healthcare professionals who are doing the work, we have to honor God, who is the biggest physician of all. He is the one who could give, He is the one who gave life, and He is the one who could take it. Because physicians, and this is a warning to the people of England who are now having this thing about making physicians and nurses into gods. The only God that exists in healthcare, and the only God that does something is God. Nothing else. Physicians are just simply healers in the earth. You can only do as a physician or nurse could do only what they could do, and the rest we have to leave it to the Lord. I learned that the hard way when I was doing the surgery in the Dominican Republic. And I also saw the painting. And that's all I could say under the healthcare. But I did want to add this as a warning to England, because England recently, during the COVID-19 crisis, had this thing that every Thursday everyone has to applaud the physicians and the nurses. And even when the nurses and the physicians and other healthcare workers are in a public place or in a supermarket, and most people in England, or everyone, has to bow down and worship to them. Oh, and I'm talking about in England. I read this from the Daily Mail. And I said, this is not true. This shouldn't be, because the only healer is God. And I wanted to thank you, Tim, for sharing the testimony about your part in cancer. Unless you want to add something more.
Well, it's quite a long story, obviously, but I thank you for letting me put that in. I did want to say that the change in me was when the Lord came to visit me. So Linda had gone into surgery and come back out, and the doctor says, we're going to do everything that we can to save her. And I'll go through this pretty quickly. It's quite a long story. And I went in to visit Linda, and Linda said, I'm happy, why aren't you happy? So that whole thing that she said, I came in and then I left. And when I left, I went by the waiting room and I signaled to my sister. And I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just going and doing. I had no reason to ask for her. I had no reason to leave Linda's room. I should have been there with her. But the night before, Roberto, and I'm not proud of this, I'm really proud of what the Lord did in me. And I told the Lord, I said, Lord, I trust you with Linda. Well, then when it came right down to it, I didn't trust God with Linda. I mean, I just didn't, because I was afraid. And I was exhibiting that fear. It overtook me. But what God did with me in the middle of that valley of shadow of death, He was walking with me, and He pulled me out of that fear. So I went to the chapel. I didn't go to the chapel because it was a chapel. I went to the chapel because there was nobody in there, and I could go in there, and I was just searching. I left my sister. I walked out of the hospital. I don't know where I was going. I was just going. I didn't even have a place to go. I just was walking. And there was a little park area there. There were people having lunch, the healthcare workers, the nurses, they were having their lunches there, the techs. And I didn't stop there, and I walked by, and I just kept walking. I went around the hospital, and there was a steel door with a little concrete pad, and I fell against that door, and I slid down that door, and Roberto, tears were coming out of my eyes so fast they were not touching my cheek. They were actually, I didn't even know that was medically possible, but it is possible.
It is
I'm sure
possible.
you know this.
It is possible.
That they just shot out of my eye and didn't run down my cheek. I fell against this door, down onto the concrete pad, and I was telling God, I said, why are you taking my treasure away from me? Why are you doing this? And the sadder I became, the angrier I became with God, and I was wrestling with Him. Like in the Old Testament, I believe it was Jacob wrestling with the angel. The same kind of wrestling, really like a battle with God. Why are you doing this? This is the only thing that I care about. And I was blaming God. You are taking her away from me. You have the power to leave her here, but you also have the power to take her. Why did you decide? I waited all this time. I could have married other people. I could have had a wife already, could have had a family already. I waited for her. And when I found her, now I have her a few years later, we have a beautiful relationship, and you're taking her away from me. And I was on that pad probably for about 2 hours. And it's out in public. It's not like I was in a private area. I'm just laying there. I finally got up, and I said, you know what? I've got to go back to the hospital. I've got to be with my wife no matter if I like it or not. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how to behave. I don't know how to act. I don't know what to say. But I got to go back. It's my duty. The closer I got to the hospital, the harder it was for me to continue forward. Because when I went back in there and saw her, it was going to bring back, this is my treasure that I'm losing. So I saw the doors to the hospital, and I couldn't grab the doors. I couldn't open the doors. I was paralyzed. And there was a little concrete walkway, or like a wall, like a half wall. And I sat down on that wall, and I looked at the door, and I looked back. And I didn't see, but I felt as real as me and you are speaking now. Mm-hmm. Jesus sat down. So you know when you're sitting down on a bench, and somebody's coming to sit down, you kind of scoot over, right? And you give them a spot to sit down. It was so real to me that I scooted over on the bench, and literally the Spirit of Jesus sat down next to me. And I felt such peace, but then I felt such anger at the same time. And I was angry at Him. And He said this to me. He says, I don't understand you. And that made me even more angry. I said, because I don't understand you. You are taking my treasure away from me. But as He sat there, it was so peaceful that peace was beginning to penetrate me and like overtake me, and I didn't want to calm down. I wanted to be mad, and it was just so tangible that it began to relax me. And there were some more things that we conversed about there, and he was talking to me, but I'll take you right to the point. He says, I'm going to teach you, and you're going to begin to love and enjoy Linda forever, starting today. He said, you have been trying to keep her, and when you try to keep her, you can lose her in this life through death. But if you give her to me, then you will have her forever. You can enjoy her forever. He says, I want you to take her, and I'm going to show you. And I said, Lord, help me. You're going to have to help me. You're going to have to show me how to do it. I don't even know what you're asking me to do. He says, you take Linda, and you place her in my Father. And then, like the scripture says, neither moth nor rust nor thief, no thief can steal her, no moth can destroy her, rust won't decay her. And Linda then became from temporal in this earth to eternal. So now she was my temporal, my time being in this earth treasure that I was trying to hang on to. And Jesus told me, I didn't come here to take Linda away from you. I came here to give Linda to you forever. The peace came on me at that moment. And I changed, and that's when I was able to go in and help Linda. And when I went back in, I went and met with Linda. I explained the things to her with the nurse. The nurse even broke down. I mean, like you're saying, these are real people. They're not robots. They have hearts. They love the people. The real healthcare workers that are compassionate people. They feel their patients, like what you're talking about. And we had to talk to Linda together to tell her what really had happened, because originally she was supposed to go get her surgery, go home, everything's happy. Then they found out it was much worse than even the CT scans and all the tests it showed. So I talked to Linda, and then I went out and I got the family, and I was very commanding, not demanding, but commanding. This is the way it's going to be. This is what we're going to do. Not the guy that was out in the park that was falling apart asking God why you're taking my treasure away. This was more Jesus-like than I had ever been. Jesus was in command. He was in control. He said, this is the way it's going to be. This is what we're going to do. That's the faith will rise. So faith was rising in me because the kingdom had come, right? And this faith allowed me to stand. Linda, I couldn't touch her. The first time I went in, I stood at the end of her bed. I couldn't touch her. I couldn't reach out and grab her hand for the first time and the only time in my entire life I have not been able to touch my wife. And you got a wife, you know, I mean, you just touch her. It's no problem. When I came back in, I was able to grab her hand. I'll tell you this, one part of the story. So beautiful, beautiful part of the story. I love this. And I just got to tell you, it's what happened. I don't even know how it can happen, how it's even possible. But Linda began to cry when the nurse was telling her, you're going to have to go through chemotherapy, and Linda didn't want to go through chemotherapy, and a tear started coming down, and it got down to right about here, and it was just a full stream tear right here. And the Holy Spirit prompted me, and he said, just grab Linda's hand. I grabbed Linda's hand, and I held it. I didn't say anything. I didn't pray. I didn't ask God anything. I just grabbed her hand. As honestly as I can be with you, that tear, I watched it. That tear went just like this, right up her cheek and right back into her eye, and she never cried. And to this day, she has not cried from fear of death or cancer or any of it. People are totally amazed. The testimonies that you have heard come from that relationship.
Excuse me, Tim. I think Instagram is now cutting me off, but I'm gonna see if I could try to come back to you after the 15 seconds. Just hold on, and I'm gonna reconnect with you because they're now giving me a sign here that I have to cut off. But I want to come back to finish everything.
Okay.
Just 1 minute.
Sure.
1 minute. In intermission time.